Okay, this video is called What You Say Matters, right? And I'm saying this because I think it's important, or it's better, if the reader is clear or precise in what he or she says. I think it's better for the questioner if you, the reader, are clear about what you're saying. And I think we probably all want to be able to turn a card and know how it answers the question, or how it points to something that's generally good or bad about what can be done, right? So somebody might want to know, will I find true love? And you turn the card and you say yes, looking at the card, because of this and this and this. Or you look at the card and you say no, not so much, you're not going to find true love right now because of this kind of behavior or this kind of action shown by the card. Because what it means is you set up some kind of barrier. By acting in this way, you set up some kind of a barrier, and this gets in the way. So maybe the first thing you do is remove the barrier, and that's going to free up space for true love to get close to you, or something like that. So, or maybe somebody asks, what can I do to improve my chances of let's say promotion? So if the card is upright, you say do this and this and this. If the card is upside down, you say don't do this, or don't act in this particular way, again as shown by the card. However, if you turn a card and you don't know what to say, which happens from time to time, or maybe it happens a lot, or maybe you can't make a connection with the answer. You look at the card and you think of meanings, but you can't make the connection with the answer, or you can't quite see how that card relates to the question, right? So you have to look in a book. And you look up a meaning in a book, but that doesn't really help either. So the question is, how do we develop the ability to see answers, no matter what the card, or to make connections between the card that comes up, or the cards that come up, and a solution to the problem or the situation that has been asked about? So what I'm going to do in the rest of this video, there's a card illustration later. I want to show you how poetry and the words to songs, if we examine them and think about them, it's going to mean that you can read cards. You're going to be able to read cards because you become more, if you look at or consider the words of poems or songs, you're going to be more aware of what's going on, and you're going to be able to express it more accurately or with more precision. So the question is going to have a clear idea of what to do, or how to act, or what to expect, right? Because that can be important as well. And so the questioner goes off and they handle the situation better, or they know what direction to take the situation or the problem in. So I'm talking generally right now, but I'm going to be more specific in a minute. So I'm saying poetry is a key for our reading, for learning to read tarot cards, but don't be put off by poetry, because it's not poetry like they bored you to tears with in school. So when I was 14, right, in English class, we were supposed to appreciate Milton and Tennyson and Wordsworth. And they kept going over, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high, blah, blah, blah. So I was 14. So I wandered around wondering, how can I get Anne Lumsden to notice me? Right? That's because it was a Monday. On a Tuesday, I wandered around wondering, how can I get Marion Christie, right, to notice me, and so on. So that's my sad story of me as a 14-year-old. But anyway, so I was 14 and poetry was nothing. Anyway, back to the present, and we want to be able to read cards, right? So we want to turn a card and know what to say, or what to make of it, or how it answers the question, or how it provides at least part of the answer, if not the whole one. But at present, if you turn a card, you may not know what to say, so you have to look in a book, but that can make you feel inadequate because you feel you ought not to be dependent on books. And in addition, you may look at the meaning in the book and still not know how to relate the apparent meaning to the question. So that approach of looking at the book and having meanings is all a bit hit and miss, or stop and start. But I think we want the reading to flow and to move along nicely from the beginning to the end. So, songs. you can have other songs that you like that mean something to you, but there's a song by Bob Dylan called Lily, Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, and it's kind of set in the Old West, and you've got Big Jim, who's the local big shot rich fellow, and there's a saloon, and Lily and Rosemary work in the saloon, or one of them's the girlfriend of Big Jim, and the Jack of Hearts, who's this romantic ex-boyfriend, comes to town with his gang to rob the bank and so on. So it's a good little story. But anyway, there's a line in it where Bob Dylan sings, Lily took her dress off, buried it away. So she buried it away. She didn't just take the dress off and hang it up. She buried it because the life that went with the dress was now over, right? Or the role that she played while wearing the dress was finished with, it was dead, right? And because it was dead, she buries the symbol of the way of acting or behaving, right? So it's easy to think nothing. She buried the dress away. It's easy to think nothing of the word and just pass it by. But if you think about it or pay attention to words, or to this particular word, then you get a whole lot more out of it. You sort of get the big picture or a wider picture, or you understand what happened, the action of putting the dress away. You understand that differently, and you see much more about what's going on. So you can make more out of it. And in this way, I think we have an ability in each of us to see more and to do more with what we see. And I think taking seriously the words of songs and the words in poetry activates this ability, or brings it closer to the surface and makes it more useful or more accessible to us. So if you practice with poetry and literature and Shakespeare and some modern songs, you're going to find you're a lot more comfortable reading the tarot, because you find that it's not so hard, or it's not so alien to you, because your imagination is active and working. And this is because with poetry and literature, the words are chosen carefully. Good writers know what they want to say, right, before they say it. And they know what they want to convey in the thought, or in the line of poetry, or in the sentence, in the words that they use. So they choose particular words and phrases that produce the effect, or that will get the result that they want. And a while ago in a previous video, I talked about the beginning of Romeo and Juliet, right? So two households, both alike in dignity, in favour of honor with Leah, are seen from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, right? So we get the idea there are two households and there's a grudge, right? So somebody sometime insulted somebody else or did something that was badly received, and so the need for revenge or getting even or hostility or the idea that somebody is an enemy, that's set in. There's a grudge, right? But it's not just any old grudge, it's an ancient grudge, right? And that one word, ancient, paints a picture, because when you think of an ancient grudge, it may well be that the incident that caused the grudge in the first place, it happened so long ago that maybe nobody remembers what it actually was. But even though people don't remember it or don't know it, they still act in a certain way. They still act in the same way, not trust any other household. So this is an ancient grudge. And because it's old, not just old, but Shakespeare says it's ancient. It's ancient, calling it ancient gives it a kind of importance and makes it seem justified or worthwhile. And so because it's an ancient grudge, people are likely to act irrationally or without thinking, without good reason, just because it's a family grudge, it's an ancient grudge. So there are going to be mistakes and overreactions and so on. It's an ancient grudge. So there's a long-standing point of difference between the two households, and it's serious. So Shakespeare could have said, it was a silly grudge, or a stupid grudge, or a pointless one. But it's ancient, and that gives it solidity and a kind of respectability, and it's not going to be easily broken. So, I think if our imagination and understanding can be stimulated to see a large picture, right, from just a word or two, what can we do with a tarot card? So remember, Lily took her dress off and buried it away. With that approach or that attitude in mind, we're going to look at a card. So what can we do, for example, with the Four of Coins? It shows a man sitting and he's got a coin under each foot. He's holding a coin tightly on his chest, and there's a fourth coin over his head. So we take each part individually. There are coins below his feet, right? He's standing on them, or he's sitting, but his feet are placed on them. So we might figure that he needs income, or that money determines his level of confidence. So money is what he stands on, or builds on, or what he sees as his foundation. Money is important to this fellow. So if you meet somebody who is poor, who doesn't have money, he's not as likely to take that person seriously, or maybe just decide, I don't like that person, I'm not going to have anything to do with them. But by contrast, let's say he meets somebody who's rich. So that person might be rich and crooked, or dishonest, or completely unscrupulous, but to this Four of Coins person, it doesn't matter, because the important point is he's got money, he's rich. So he's prepared to overlook criminality and crookedness, right? Because there's money involved. And maybe if money is so important to this fellow, maybe he can be bought, right? Then there's a coin held on his chest. He's holding on to his money. So that maybe indicates he's cheap or tight with money and doesn't want to spend it. But coins can also show values, and in many ways, looking at the suit of coins as values can be more useful in answering questions. So holding the coin like this to his chest, this person knows what he cares about. He has his values under control, right? And he's holding on tight to them. So he's probably not going to change them, maybe unless you pay him, right? So it's a person who has known values that he cares about, and he's not willing to let go easily, right? So if you want to persuade this person to do something that he doesn't want to do, you're going to have to work hard. Okay. Then there's a coin over his head. So the head is where our thoughts are. So maybe he thinks a lot about money, or he sees a connection between cash and reputation, right? I once took a bookbinding class some years ago, and one of the people in the class was there because he collected old Bibles and he wanted to learn how to repair them so he could increase the value. So he would talk about his Bibles that he had in his collection, not because of the paper and the binding and the craftsmanship that went into the binding and into the printing, but he would talk about how much they cost, what they were worth now, how much profit he had made, how much he expected to have made by the time he sold them. And it reminded me of an observation somebody once made, that this is a person who knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing. So maybe you get that connection with the Four of Coins. So if we look at the card, we can know certain things, or we can see various points about the person and the situation represented by the card. So it's a bit like we know the backstory, right? If you saw the TV show Lost, there were sort of flashbacks so we could understand how the person got into the situation they're in now. You can call it a backstory, or what's going on in the background. And so if we look at the Four of Pentacles and understand something of the background or the backstory, this means we can speak with confidence or know in advance about how this person is going to act in the future, or we know how the situation is going to turn out because we know what's going on generally with this particular situation, or we know its dynamics, right? Or we know the energy pattern, or however we want to describe the activity in the picture. At the same time, when a card comes up, we don't try to cover absolutely everything it refers to, but we relate some part of the story of the card to the question that has been asked. Right? So somebody may want to know, how do I find true love? And the answer is the Four of Pentacles. So maybe you say, hold out for what you believe in, right? Holding the value. And don't compromise. And don't accept what you know is second best. And that's how you're going to find true love. Or maybe somebody wants to know, how do I get on better with my child? And the answer is the Four of Pentacles. So again, we've got somebody fixed like that. What do? Be your own person. And let the child adjust to you. And that's how you're going to develop, or how you're going to get on better with your child. Or somebody may want to know, how can I find a new job? And the answer is the Four of Pentacles. So what you do is, thinking of coins as values, make an honest assessment of your abilities and skills. And so you're going to go for what you can actually do. And if you, through your assessment, if you discover that you're lacking in a certain area, then learn how to do it. Take a course, study, become stronger in that area. And then you're going to discover that the job finds you. Okay, that was something about poetry and words and how we can read cards. So if you've got a comment, then post it below. Or if you'd like to discuss it, send me an email. Next up is probably going to be something about the first card in the Celtic Cross. So until next time, happy tarot reading. I don't know, something by way of saying goodbye.